The pick is in with the 26th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. The Rams select, or isn't it? Will the Rams trade down? Will they take a tight end, a quarterback, an offensive lineman, a running back, a quarterback? We'll find out tonight. We got final expert mock draft predictions. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramily, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do me a huge favor. Join the party, trying to get to 17,000 subscribers. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and drop your predictions for what you think the Rams will do tonight on the first day one of the 2025 NFL Draft. My name is Doug McCain. Friends call me D-Mac. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMac_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleacher Report as Side Dodgers Nation. I also do NFL radio for Westwood One. Today, I'm flying solo. The People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, is out, but we've got a jam-packed show. What will the Rams do tonight? How could they crush this draft? Who have they met with? Can go so many different ways. But first, today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, so happy draft day, Ramily. We've anticipated this day for it feels like years. It's been months, but tonight we will have an answer for where the Rams will go. What will they do? Will they trade down? Will they trade up? Will they take a win-now player? Will they take a quarterback? All these questions that we've pondered for months now, some of them will be answered tonight in the first round. The Rams have the 26th pick in the first round. Will they keep that pick? That remains to be seen. The pick will come in, if they stay there, at around 8:10 Pacific time, 11:10 Eastern. So get those nachos ready and kick up your feet and enjoy the draft tonight. But what will the Rams do? Well, we're going to start today by looking at the final predictions for experts around the NFL and what these mock drafts are saying where the Rams could go. And we are going to start with the NFL Wire, who has the Rams taking cornerback Will Johnson out of Michigan and has them trading up. So he predicts the Rams will trade with the Denver Broncos. They'll move up to 22. The Broncos would get the Rams' third-round pick. And look, cornerback's a major need. Will Johnson is someone who at one point was considered to be one of the best cornerbacks in this draft. He still is, but he was someone that was considered to be a top 10 pick at one point. And what I like about Will Johnson, he's got the size, 6'2", great in coverage, he's got the ball skills. This is someone that could be an absolute home run in the first round. You would have to give up a third-round pick, but the Rams wouldn't be afraid to do that. You saw what they did last year to trade up, which was the most draft capital we've seen for a pick in a while with Braden Fisk. So they're not afraid to do that, and then you would get the cornerback that you're after. Then ESPN's Peter Schrager, who has his finger on the pulse for the Rams. Peter Schrager, who has shouted out this podcast on Good Morning Football. He is a part of the Everyday Listeners Club, I'm thinking. He watches this show, listens to this podcast. And Peter Schrager, his prediction is that the Rams trade down to number 34. And if this is the case, he's saying if the draft falls this way, I think the Rams would be okay with this. They don't currently have a second-round pick, but if they agreed to this deal, they'd have 4 picks on day 2. I think the Giants would pounce on Dart. I am not 100% certain. So he has the Rams kind of doing what you could see the Rams doing, and that is Les Snead saying, okay, we don't believe that there's these massive game-changing superstars outside of a handful of players, but there is a lot of quality in this draft. When it's the tight end position, it's deep. When it's the wide receiver position that you could look to add another guy to help bolster this offense. You could find a running back. You could find a linebacker, right? I mean, there's other positions that you can get with multiple picks later in the draft. So wouldn't be surprised to see the Rams do that unless they do feel in their heart of hearts that there is that impact player that they can get in round one. I do think that there's a chance that that is the case. Then ESPN, their prediction for the Rams is a player we've talked a lot about on this show, and that's Matthew Golden out of Texas. Matthew Golden, wide receiver, speedster out of Texas, and you would completely round out that receivers room. You would give the Rams a future at the position in the event that Devontae Adams is only here for 1 year. Same thing goes for Tutu Atwell, and then you would have a guy that you could use as a X-factor type of player this season. So giving Matthew Stafford another receiver would not be frowned upon by Rams fans, and you got the present and then you got the future, and you got someone that could take the top off of defense and be a game changer this season. Then Todd McShay, he predicts the Rams will pick another receiver. These two played against each other in the Cotton Bowl this year. He has them taking wide receiver Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. McShay writes, a smart, strong, savvy receiver with a team-first mentality in Sean McVay's system. It makes too much sense. Not many rookie receivers could step in and earn Matthew Stafford's trust like Puka Nacua did last season. I think it means the season before that, but Egbuka is the most capable of any receiver in this class of doing just that. I do think that if you're looking at from a maturity standpoint, from a guy that you can plug in and expect results, Egbuka could be that guy. I think for me with Emeka Egbuka, I see him as someone that could be a B to a B plus type of receiver at the next level, but you don't see him as one of those top 5 type of high ceiling guys that can really stretch. I mean, he works in the slot, great blocker, great hands. So certainly I like the dependability and what he could bring as a rookie. I think he's got the mindset to come in and help this team right away. But I'm not so sure I would love Emeka Egbuka with that first pick. I think I would go with someone with a higher ceiling in my estimation, but still a quality player. That's a lot of quality right there from Emeka Egbuka. He's been mocked in the first round pretty much his entire career at Ohio State. And then CBS Sports has the Rams taking Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. So this is going to be interesting because this would indicate that the Rams value that linebacker position more than they've shown in recent years, trading away Ernest Jones. And you go and you get Loveland and you pair him with Reeder and you got Omar Spates. You kind of got this linebacker room. But I think Campbell, the athleticism is there, and he's out of Alabama. He did have shoulder surgery. He has been recovering well, so he should be able to go for the 2025 season. So if the Rams did take a linebacker this high, it would tell you that they think he has the potential to be special. And the fact that, look, you got Kobe Turner on the defensive line. You can address that a little later in the draft, too. You got a elite potential in Jared Verse, who won Defensive Rookie of the Year. You took him with a 19th pick. You still have Byron Young. I think you do have Nick Hampton. You want to replace Michael Hoyt as another pass rusher. But it would say that, hey, we think that this is the best version of a player at this part of the draft at a position where, yeah, maybe we don't view it as a premium position like other positions, but we think that he can be a game changer, and we don't think the other guys available could. So I wouldn't love it. I would probably go corner at that spot for sure if I'm going on the defensive side, but Jahad Campbell is certainly a very, very talented player that would, if he worked out, he would be a long-term solution, and he would plug a big hole that the Rams have been missing. They've had subpar linebacker play for the last couple of seasons. And then you got NFL.com's Charles Davis. He also has the Rams taking wide receiver Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State. So, yeah, like I said, I wouldn't be doing cartwheels outside of SoFi Stadium if they took Emeka Egbuka, but look, full disclosure, my mom's a Buckeye. I've watched a lot of Ohio State, was at the Rose Bowl, and yeah, he's not Jeremiah Smith, a future all-world type of receiver that has been comped to Megatron, Calvin Johnson, and Julio Jones, or guys like that, but Egbuka, very, very solid. If you're going to go to a lab and build a Rams receiver, you would come out with guys like Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and Egbuka, tough, physical, strong-handed, great route runner, great hands. He can come through and be a nasty blocker in the run game. So we know that those are all boxes you have to check off to play for Sean McVay. So definitely feels very Ramsey, very Rams-like as far as his build. And then NFL.com's Bucky Brooks has the Rams taking offensive tackle Josh Simmons out of Ohio State. So Josh Simmons, he has been one of the tackles that has been in the conversation for the last couple of years to be selected high. He did suffer an injury early on in the season that ended his season against Oregon. But Josh Simmons is someone that really has a lot of upside. He's athletic. And if he was available at that spot, I mean, you would have the replacement for Rob Havenstein. You already recommitted to Alaric Jackson. I would not be mad at an offensive tackle because you just don't find elite ones in free agency. And at some point, you have to solidify the other part of that offensive line. And you'd also get depth this season. And 33rd team has the Rams taking Jahad Campbell out of Alabama. So, yeah, look, the Rams need linebacker. There's no doubt about it. They definitely have a roster that could use some more talent on that side of the ball. But I do think that you look at last year, the Rams never thought they could get Jared Verse at 19. I mean, he's someone that was expected to go higher in the draft for most of the season. And Jahad Campbell, I mean, the value there is that, hey, because that shoulder injury, you could get him later than he would have had he been 100% healthy. So the Rams definitely like value there. Then Pro Football Focus has tight end Colston Loveland. So you guys know I loved me some Loveland for a while now. And look, Sean McVay, he's been after a dynamic tight end. They tried to trade up for Brock Bowers. They were interested in Dalton Kincaid. They have been in this mix. And Loveland, a 90.6 PFF grade since 2023. It's top 3 in college football. And he gives you that almost hybrid type of, okay, I can do things like a typical tight end, but really it's being involved in the passing game and giving McVay that weapon. Then you got the Draft Network has the Rams taking linebacker Carson Schwessinger out of UCLA. You know, I love me some Carson Schwessinger because he's a Bruin. And look, he was a player that it just rose through the ranks. He was a walk-on at UCLA that became a stalwart, a part of that defense. I would love to see him as a Bruin. But no Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. I'm going to tell you why he's a great fit for the Rams. And also, every prospect in this draft that the Rams have been confirmed to have met with, we're going to reveal that next on Locked On Rams. Ever check your bank account and wonder where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. It seemed like every other day I was ordering food. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps too, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena. Games 1 and 2 for the Lakers-Wolves series, Crypto.com, it was going up. You had the Clippers coming back for games 3 and 4 against the Nuggets at the Intuit Dome. It's going to be electric. And with Gametime, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Gametime makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. Now, here's why I use Gametime. you get the last minute deals. You save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. They got the all-in pricing. That means there's no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to those everyday listeners out there watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. We've picked up a lot of new viewers on YouTube, listeners on the pod. If you're new to the show, join that Everyday Listeners Club. The Rams are making another run to the Super Bowl, and you want to be a part of the entire journey from day one. So join Every Listeners Club, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Okay, so it's draft day. You should already be excited. The Rams have crushed the draft the last couple of seasons. But here's another reason why you should be excited for tonight. And yes, every team has their whiffs. Every team has their misses. But Les Snead has been in his bag of late. And the Rams tweet out, General Manager Les Snead is the only GM over the last decade to draft at least 3 players who have been honored as the offensive or defensive rookie of the year. Former D tackle Aaron Donald, former running back Todd Gurley accomplished this feat in back-to-back seasons in 2014 and 2015, and outside linebacker Jared Verse was honored in 2024. So I'm very excited to see if Les Snead can pull off another elite draft class tonight. A lot of confidence that he will. But how about a cornerback out of Texas in Jahdae Barron? Now, the Rams definitely are in the mix for Jalen Ramsey. They have contacted the Dolphins. They have had those discussions. We talked about that throughout the week. But there's no reason why you can't bring in a Jahdae Barron if you don't think you can pull that off. Or even if you do, this is an interesting prospect. And there's a reason why he'd be a great fit. The Rams, they played off-zone coverage 60.3% of the time last season. That is a perfect situation and scheme for what Jahdae Barron does at an elite level. He's an off-zone cornerback. He's great at spacing. He can anticipate the football. He had a 90.8 PFF grade as a cornerback on the outside. And this was the first year that he played that position. Last year, he was mainly at safety and playing in the slot. So not only has he shown the ability to, in year one, getting the majority of his reps on the outside, take full advantage and be great there, it's some untapped potential. I think you're getting him where he's not close to being maxed out as a player. So do like the idea of a Jahdae Barron. The question is, would he even be available? You might have to trade up a couple spots to get him, but that's another name that you want to consider. I still think Colston Loveland, there's been a lot of smoke there. They can get him. The Rams wanted that dynamic tight end. Colby Parkinson hasn't quite worked out. Tyler Higbee towards the end of his career. You already have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, Tutu Atwell back. Jordan Whittington in the mix. Could be interesting if you have an offense where you really have no holes from a playmaker standpoint. To add someone like Loveland, we saw what Bowers did. We saw what Laporta did. You could have a tight end come in as a rookie and have a major impact, and Loveland certainly has the potential to do that. So I'm just going to go with that as my pick just because that was the pick that I made months ago in the Locked On NFL mock draft. I actually traded down to get Josh Connerly out of Oregon at 40, so I definitely did a fleece job there. So if I could pull that off, I would in this draft, but that's a mock. Then this is IRL in real life tonight. But let's reveal all of the players that the Rams have met with, because it's not everything. It's not nothing, though. So who have the Rams met with so far in this NFL draft? Well, this draft has been one where they've talked to some quarterbacks. They met with Alabama quarterback Jalen Monroe. They spent, quote, considerable time with Ole Miss quarterback Jackson Dart. They met with Louisville quarterback Tyler Shuck, and there are some rumors that the Rams are, quote, very high on Shuck. They met with Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord. They've met with Arizona running back Cam Skattebo. So Skattebo is someone that he's an absolute beast. I mean, fans would love that. Michigan State running back Nate Carter. They have been known to have shown a lot of interest in running back Nate Carter. So, look, we talked about on the show, too, the possibility of going out there and adding another running back that can complement, be the lightning to Kyron Williams' thunder, because of Blake Corum. He really is a guy that can back him up and step into that role if Kyron Williams gets injured. But a running back that has some speed and explosiveness, you could add another element that this Rams offense doesn't have from their backfield. The Rams, you're not seeing them get 20-yard runs, right? They were at the bottom of the NFL in that category last season. Then you got Auburn running back Jarquez Hunter. They had a virtual meeting with that one. Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden. That was a formal meeting that took place at the Combine. Arkansas wide receiver Isaac Tesla, they visited with him. Texas wide receiver Isaiah Bond. Oregon wide receiver Tez Johnson, a formal meeting with him at the Combine. Colorado State wide receiver Torrey Horton, they met him at the Combine. Ole Miss wide receiver Trey Harris, they met him at the Combine. Also met with tight end out of Penn State Tyler Warren. And the Rams are a team that has been said to be, quote, seemingly joined the mix for Warren. So that would have to be a trade-up situation. It's another indication that they want a tight end. So are they viewing Warren as their plan A, the big white whale, and then they'll get Colston Loveland, or are they all in on getting that premier tight end? Because last year they wanted Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers proved that he is going to be an elite playmaker at that position for a long time. Maybe they want to miss out this time around. I think that's a strong possibility. Texas tight end, but then it's also a deep tight end draft, right? They met with Texas tight end Gunnar Helm. They've met with Nebraska tight end Thomas Fidone, Georgia center Jared Wilson, Michigan State offensive lineman Luke Newman, Sacramento State offensive lineman Jackson Slater, Texas A&M defensive lineman Shamar Turner, Oklahoma linebacker Danny Stutzman, Syracuse linebacker Justin Barron, Washington linebacker Carson Bruner, Virginia Tech cornerback Dorian Strong, Western Kentucky cornerback Upton Stout, Louisiana cornerback Keon Martin, Texas safety Andrew Makuba. So let's just hope we hear 1, 2, or 3 of those names over the next couple of days throughout the weekend, and it'll give us a good idea about how important those meetings are. But yeah, I mean, I think for this draft, there's no doubt about it that the Rams, they could go a lot of different ways, but the positions that we keep hearing are the ones I think they focus on higher in the draft. Cornerback, tight end, offensive line. You got to get that replacement for Rob Havenstein at some point, but there could be some wild cards in this. And coming up next, we're going to talk about how the Rams could absolutely crush the draft once again. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams. And a reminder that today's episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner, your work doesn't end when the clock hits 5. Your business is always on your mind, which means when it's time to hire, you need a partner that works just as hard as you do. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. When you clock out, LinkedIn clocks in. LinkedIn makes it easier to post your job for free, share it with your network, and get qualified candidates all in one place. Post your job. LinkedIn's new feature can help you write job descriptions and then quickly get your job in front of the right people with deep candidate insights. And here's a pro tip. Add the hashtag hiring frame to your profile picture to double your reach to qualified candidates. No wonder 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn helps them find high quality hires. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Okay, so what will the Rams do tonight? Well, there is a rumor from Diana Russini of The Athletic where she says that the Rams could trade up for the guy I've been talking about for months now, and that is Michigan tight end Colston Loveland. Rossini writes, expect the Rams to once again show interest in a tight end in the first round. Last year, Los Angeles tried and failed to move up to select Brock Bowers. I'm told Sean McVay and Les Snead once could try to move up to get their guy. So, you guys know I planted my flag. I bought all the real estate on Colston Loveland Island. So if it happens, don't forget the first show to bring him up and link him. But I do think that Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, those are names that are high up there on the Rams big board. But you look at Loveland and what he's able to do. I mean, Loveland, 43% of his snaps, he was in the slot. 16.4% of the snaps were at the boundary receiver. I mean, there's just so many interesting things that he can do with this team. So if the Rams could get him, I'm telling you, this is a guy that with Cooper Kupp gone, I mean, the routes that he runs, he's 6'5", 245. He's got speed at that position. He can just find the soft zones and zone coverage. He's got versatility. He's not an elite blocking tight end, but, I mean, could he block as well as Cooper Kupp did, right? And, yes, he's not a receiver, but the way that he'd be used, I mean, you have to consider those things. So I'm all in on Colston Loveland. I mean, I'm in too deep. I want to stick with my pick. I'm not a guy that changes his pick 40, 50 times like you see in a lot of shows. I'm going to stick with my original pick from a couple months ago. And, yeah, we'll see what happens. But one thing I want to see the Rams do tonight is, and this goes for how they could crush this draft, is do not take a quarterback in the first round. Just don't do it. I don't care if it's Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart, Jalen Monroe. Jalen Milroe is a good quarterback for sure, talented, but he outside of him in that group, I don't see the highest level of upside, right? For me, if Patrick Mahomes was there, if Jordan Love was there, if there were guys that you could say, okay, they have shown from an arm strength standpoint, a pure throwing the football standpoint, the potential to be a franchise quarterback, I'd say, yeah, you roll the dice and you take it. But you got 1, possibly 2 years left with Matthew Stafford. You were 14 yards away from the NFC Championship game, from hosting an NFC Championship game. If it weren't for Bo Limmer, whiffing against Jalen Carter, you're probably in the Super Bowl last year. You were that close from beating a really, really good Eagles team on the road. All in. Take the lien on the mortgage, throw it in the middle of the table. Take the watch, put it in the middle of the table. The pink slips to the car, middle of the table. Wife's earrings, middle of the table. All in. That's what this franchise is all about. You don't do that if you take a quarterback. And I just don't think that any of these guys have the upside. Cam Ward, I definitely think has potential for sure. But outside of that, I just don't see stars within that group. I'm sure some will emerge. This might not age well, but I think where this team is with their roster build, I don't think they would regret it even if those guys became stars, right? Just because I think that this Rams team is built to win in 2025 and 2026. So, look, I mean, if you can make it to the NFC Championship game this year and you fall short, or you go to the Super Bowl, you fall short, or even before then you fall short, and then you have that quarterback waiting in the wings, and then you spend 5 to 10 years with him and you don't win a Super Bowl, was it really worth it, right? I mean, that's what it's all about, especially exclusive to this market. You always have to use that and look at that through the prism of in LA, you got to win a Super Bowl. The Rams are about winning Super Bowls, right? They're not the Chargers. They're not these other teams. They're just, okay, let's compete. Of course, they want to win Super Bowls, but the Rams, they have proof of concept that what they've done has worked. A lot of teams try to do what the Rams have done, but they skip the part where they ultimately win the game's ultimate prize. So that's what it should be about tonight. Another couple of things I want to see the Rams do. Got to find a cornerback. They have not found the long-term solution at that position. You got to take a tackle to replace Rob Havenstein next season. I definitely look at the linebacker spot. I don't think you should draft high at that position. You have Omar Spades, who you believe in. You got Troy Reader and Loveland. Yeah, they're not elite top 5, but let's not forget, you also brought in Poona Ford that's going to do a lot of work to stop the run. So get a linebacker that you think has the potential to be average to above average in coverage, and you can be fine from that standpoint. The Rams just don't view that position highly. I'd be absolutely shocked if they took a linebacker high. So don't take a linebacker high, get a cornerback, and then also get a tackle. And then I'm looking for that kind of special playmaker, whether it be a running back or a wide receiver, someone with speed. We've talked about Blue. We've talked about Golden. We talked about guys that can take the top off of a defense, whether that's someone with a high pick or someone that has those measurables that's a little more raw that you can mold. I definitely like that. And I also think, too, look, I mean, people will say, okay, just let the draft fall to where you want it to. Let guys fall into your lap just because, yes, you did have success in free agency, so you're not desperate to find that receiver. You're not desperate to find that run stopper. You're not desperate at a lot of different positions. You brought back Alaric Jackson, Matthew Stafford. You're not desperate for a quarterback. But we saw last year with Braden Fisk, and if you want that guy, you got to go get him. And if you want a tight end that's a potential elite playmaker at that position, don't be afraid to go up and get him. But, I mean, we'll see what happens tonight. I think it's going to be a fireworks show. Hopefully, once again, this Rams organization always has something up their sleeve, and I can't wait. We're going to be back to break it all down tonight on an emergency episode of Locked On Rams. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.